Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am so happy to be here today. If you don't know who I am, my name is Elizabeth. I am a bookstagrammer. Recently launched a blog, so a blogger too, book blogger, literature blogger, however you want to call it. I am excited today because I've been having this vision of doing interviews with authors. I have done a couple on Instagram, but I wanted to bring it here on YouTube, so that's exactly what we're doing today. I am interviewing Kim Hooper. She has written over 5 books, and this one beauty in here, it's called No Hiding Voice. It's gonna be released in June. I already read it. I got an advance copy, and I already have so many questions I really want to ask him. And I want to learn about her writing process too, and about her in general. So, without anything else to say, let's jump right into our meeting, our chat, our interview with Kim Hooper, and let's see what we learned today.
I'm so happy you're here. How's your day going so far?
Good. How about you?
Great. Hectic already with so much work, but you know, it is what it is. We have to pay the bills.
Yeah. What do you do for work?
Oof, a lot of things. But right now I'm focusing on marketing because I'm a communication executive. So I'm all over the place. But right now, digital marketing. So we're just creating like strategies and stuff. And it's a lot of work, but it's fun. I like it.
I work in marketing advertising too. So.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. I'm a copywriter at an ad agency. Yeah.
Oh, that explains a lot. That explains a lot. Well, first of all, thank you for being here, for taking the time to be here with me. I appreciate it. I loved your book.
Thank you.
That
makes me so happy.
I know. And I mean, a lot of I've talked to a few that have, got into to read it too. And it's different. The book is different. It's not like a regular novel. You actually feel it's real life you're reading about, and you get so immersed in the book that you just forget you're a human yourself. It's crazy. I love it. So today I know you only have 30 minutes, which is completely fine. It's okay. So I just wanted to talk about the book, about you as a writer. I want to get to know you more. So I just wanted to start with that, he's telling you how good and amazing your book is. So thank you, first of all, for sending a copy. And I have a bunch of questions, but I don't want to spoil anything because I know there are people who haven't read it. So I'm going to try to keep myself, I just don't want to spoil anything.
I know.
So to begin with, you have written 5 books already, right? This is your 5th one.
Yes, that will be my 5th one. So my first was published in 2016. And so I've published, and then my second was 2018. And then I published like once a year since then. So I try to write like one a year. That seems to be like what my brain wants to do.
And that's a lot. I mean, that's great. And how do you feel about the fact that you have 5 books published?
Yeah, I mean, I'm grateful that I have a publisher that's so supportive of my writing and kind of gives me a lot of freedom to explore all the ideas I get. So, I think that's giving me the ability to publish as often as I can, is that they're so supportive of my different ideas. And, they don't care if my second book is told from a male's point of view. This one has, different points of view. So I always try to do fun things with the structures of the book. And they kind of give me that freedom and ability to kind of be creatively free. So whenever I get like a new idea, I usually spend about, 6 to 9 months kind of writing the first draft, and then another couple months of editing.
Wait, that's nothing. 6 months?
Yeah,
that's
I know.
Nothing. What?
I have this like strange compulsion almost, like where I get an idea and I just like cannot rest until it's out of my system. So so it can be a little exhausting. I'll be like in the middle of like a project, and I'll get an idea in the middle of the night and I have to scribble it down. So I get like very intense when I'm writing a book. And then I'll take like a short break, and, I'll get another idea, and then I get that same kind of energy about that.
Yeah. I love that, because actually that was one of the questions I wanted to ask you, because writing process is different for everybody.
Yes.
And I am not an author, so I don't know how that works. And I wanted to know, you as an author, you have 5 books all published. I wanted to know how the process is. But you already said you take like 6 months to write a book, which is insane to me. Yeah. So do you set goals? Do you have like,
I didn't used to. Frankly, I used to kind of just like write when I felt like it. And really what changed everything is I had my daughter. She's 3 years old now. And I realized, and I have a full-time job in advertising, like I told you. So I realized that if I wanted to keep publishing novels, and if I, wanted to get the ideas in my head on paper, I had to have some kind of a structure to it. So that kind of led me to something that works for me. So I aim, when I'm working on a novel, I try to write 1,000 words a day, and I'll do it 5 days a week. So I have 2 days off. It's usually the weekends, but it kind of depends with my work schedule, what else is going on. But I'll try to do, and I try to do those words like in the morning before my daughter wakes up or when she goes to bed. And I like to try to keep it to that goal word count. And I don't always hit that when I'm working on a novel, but then it kind of just breaks down the novel writing into like a smaller chunk. So that, if my novels are normally, 90,000 words, like it'll take me roughly 90 days to get to a first draft.
Wow.
I know, but that's that's like a very first draft. So, and then I have to go in and kind of work with it. And it just depends.
And how many drafts do you write?
I don't know. See, sometimes what happens, it depends on the book. So there's been times where I'll be halfway through writing a book and realize like, oh, this needs to happen. And then it makes me go back and kind of have to redo the first half of the book and kind of catch up to where my new idea is. So yeah, so it just depends on the book. With this new one, with No Hiding in Boise, I knew from the very beginning that I wanted 3 different perspectives. So I wanted the 3 characters, and I kind of had an idea of how I wanted the story to play out. So it was a fairly quick writing process in that way. But there's been other books where, my very first book, for example, I had written a whole complete draft, and then I realized that I wanted to add a fairly significant, part to the book, and it kind of demanded going back and sort of rewriting the whole book. So it's sort of, I know, so it sort of depends on the book, but
it changes.
Yeah, it kind of changes depending on the book. But No Hiding in Boise was fairly fast because I had a good idea of what I wanted to say, and it was more sort of weaving together the different perspectives and making sure that each character had their own voice and energy. And
yes, which is what I love about this book the most, because we get like 3 main characters: Angie, we get Tessa, we get Joyce, and you don't just get one story, you get 3 stories. Each one of them, besides the shooting, has their other relationships, for instance, and you see how everything develops and how everything collides and gets together. And that's why I say it's so unique, because usually when you have multiple perspectives, you usually have like 2 and that's it. And it's typically like a romance novel and you get the boys and the girls. This is completely different. And that's why I loved it so much, because I could get into the head of all of these characters and understand what they were going through. And you know what happened to me, which was funny? At first, I was so angry at Jen, the shooter. I was like, why in the world would you do something like that? Look, how much people are suffering. And then I get into Joy's head and he's like, oh, wow, this is another world. Like, I mean, it's terrible that he did that, but I cannot get, he needed help. And people, so I loved that. It was so intense. And now with that, I want to ask you, I cannot choose a favorite character. I don't have one, because they're all amazing. Do you have one for this particular book?
I can kind of relate to each of them, which, and it's interesting when you're talking about the Joyce character. So Joyce, for anyone who hasn't read it, Joyce is the mother of the man who is behind the shooting at the bar. And I was inspired when I read the book. The name is escaping me right now. I'll have to look it up later. But it was written by the mother of one of the shooters in Columbine. And when I read her book, I just got this insight into, it just expanded my empathy. So I kind of wanted to write a character that was, going through that, where her son had done this terrible thing, and how does she come to terms with it. And so, that story was interesting for me to dive into as a writer. Very
and as a mom too.
Yes. And as a mom, because I mean, there's things that you raise your kids well, and it's kind of like the nature versus nurture, like only so much you can control over certain things. So so I felt like I loved her character. Tessa, I really loved her because she's young and there's such like an innocence and trying to figure out kind of where she is in her life and how to handle this terrible event that she's the bartender at the bar where the shooting happens. And, you know, so trying to figure that out. And then Angie, I really relate to because I feel like she's at a similar place in life as me, where she has a young daughter. I have a young daughter. She obviously, my husband is not going through what her husband is necessarily going through. Her husband happens to be at the bar during the shooting, and as the reader, you don't know why he's there, and she doesn't know why is he at a bar in the middle of the night. So anyway,
I will get super scared and like, what is going on with my life?
Yeah, you unravel kind of the story behind that. So I think her relationship and the things she's going through with raising a small child, and so I think I could relate to that very strongly, but I feel like I like and have compassion for all of them, so they were all really fun and interesting to write, which is, you know, I hope that a reader feels just as excited to read each chapter, you know, each character feels just as compelling, because that's the thing with multiple points of view is like sometimes a reader has a favorite and then it makes the others not as interesting. So I wanted to balance that and make sure that they were all interesting. So
no, I loved it because that's exactly what made me just not stop reading the book. I honestly, there was this one night, I read it in 2 nights because I work and obviously I just can't sit down and read a whole book in a day, but I couldn't stop and I went to bed extremely late because I just couldn't put the book down, because it's exactly that. And I think it's a really good, I'll call it strategy, I don't know how to call it, but when you switch from one perspective to another, because you keep the reader, you know, into it, and it's just like, wait, now I need to know this, and now I need to know that. You never get bored of this one book, and I love it. Now, I have another question. After I read the book, first of all, I had to take like a few seconds to like absorb everything. The ending, oh my goodness, I'm not going to talk about it because I know there are people who haven't read it, but the ending. Why did you choose to write about a shooting at a bar?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we hear about these events all the time, that shootings, these terrible tragedies that happen. And I feel like I kind of got this idea for this book in the wake of a bunch of terrible shootings. There was the Las Vegas shooting. There's just been so much violence, I think, in the news, and it kind of stuck with me. And I started thinking about all the different lives that are touched by events like this. So, I mean, sometimes you hear about the shooter and you hear about the villain, and, you know, you have a certain thought about that. But then I thought, well, what about the villain's family? What about the people who have to live with this, with their loved one doing such a thing? What about, you know, the victims themselves, the people that are at the scene? What about, you know, those people's family members? So kind of just like the ripple effects of these types of events and how terrible they are and how common they've become in the US, and how sad that we have to deal with it on such a frequent basis, that it's in our lives on such a frequent basis. So I think just kind of showing the ripple effects of events like this, and kind of going into the heads of just a few people whose lives are affected by something like this, and how it kind of affects them. It helped me sort of understand some of the different thought processes. Like sometimes I write to kind of explore my own interests and my own fears and my own kind of, you know, psychological hangups. So, you know, I think I've always been deeply bothered, obviously, by shootings, and kind of thinking about all the lives that are touched, for not just the short time that those events are in the news, but, you know, years afterwards, people are affected by these things. So I think it was important to me to kind of touch on that. And I mean, I try, it's not like a political book or anything like that, but I mean, I think it's just showing how these events can, you know, how shootings can affect different people. So.
Yeah, no, that's true. And we have seen a lot of shootings in schools as well, with lots of kids, and it's so sad. And you can never imagine how that is going to go for either party, because I have never been, you know, thanks God, in a situation like that, but a lot of people in the US have, and it's just so touching. It's just like, why is this happening? So I love that you brought about that too, because it gave me, you know, I can never understand what going through that would be like, but with the book I'm like, well, this is pretty bad, you know. And then you start, as you said, being a little more compassionate and so on. And I do want to ask something. I think, I hope it's not the case with you because you wrote the book, obviously, but there's some people who are scared to write about these sort of things because of what people are gonna say or how they're gonna take it. Were any of those thoughts crossing your mind when you were writing this book?
Yeah, I try not to censor myself. That's why I said I'm very lucky that my publisher, Turner Publishing, they're an indie publisher and they're really supportive of my work. And I try not to censor myself. I try to just write what comes from the heart, and then if I have to edit something at some later point, then I will. But for the most part, I sort of just write from the heart. And I do kind of, I will say all of my novels kind of, I kind of go for like I don't know, like the edge of kind of like a raw honesty. Might be a little uncomfortable. It might be, but I just think there's so much complexity to humans, and I like to explore that instead of walk away from it. So my books are definitely not like easy, simple, light reads. I hope that they make you think. And but yeah, there's complexity to all the characters. I write flawed characters. I write characters who are going through difficult situations. I try to show kind of like the human aspect of that, because I think we all have that inside of us.
Yes, of course.
But yeah, I think some people, some people don't want to face certain things, and maybe they'd be, certain characters would kind of touch them in a way that might be uncomfortable. I don't know, but
100%.
I just try to write real characters in real life, and not censor myself. So
yes, no, and I love that when you said that, characters might touch certain areas of readers. I do want to kind of tell you a little bit about an experience I had with Tessa.
Yeah.
So she just went through this crazy experience and it changed her completely. And I see her kind of battling with herself. Is this okay? Am I feeling good? Like, am I supposed to feel this way? She stops talking, and then she talks to other people, and then she goes through this self-discovery, I will say, after the shooting. And I had an experience, not with the shooting, obviously, but I had an experience in 2017. I was 19 and I was pregnant, and I had a miscarriage. And I was happy with my pregnancy. So it's not something I was looking for, of course, but it happened, and my boyfriend and I were excited. But then after the miscarriage, I blocked myself, and I started wondering, am I gonna survive this? Like, this is too painful. I don't want to talk about it, but at the same time, I do want to talk about it. I don't even know what I want. Am I gonna be the same? And I was never. I'm not the same person I was before,
right, of course.
And I had a hard time trying to accept that I was not gonna be the same girl anymore. Yes. And with Tessa, it's a different story, but it brought me back to that time where I was, with everything was so fresh and recent, and I was just like wondering what to do with myself. So I kind of had that connection with her in that sense, and I loved it. So when you said that, I'm like, I need to share this because
I mean, first of all, I'm so sorry you went through that. I've written a lot about pregnancy loss because I had 4 myself before having our daughter. I actually have a nonfiction book I co-wrote that's coming out this month about pregnancy loss. So I can send it to you if you want.
Please. Oh my goodness, yes.
And we do talk about that, how when you go through something like that, you're never quite the same. And a lot of the grief process is grieving not just the event, whether it's the shooting or a miscarriage. It's grieving who you were, because you can't go back to being the person who was untouched by grief. Like, you can't go back to being that person. So I think it's a lot of characters and real life people deal with that. Like, how do we accept where we are in our life now, and how do we go forward as these different people? Because Tessa, like me, when I had my pregnancy losses too, I mean, Tessa will never look at life in the same innocent way again. I was completely naive before I went through my own personal tragedies, and then it kind of just changed the way I look at the world. And at first it was sort of depressing, like, oh, these bad things can happen. Now it's been kind of liberating, like life is fragile and short and we have to live it to the fullest. But and I hope Tessa gets to that point too. But I do think that you're right. I mean, that's a good connection to make, is that
Yes, and
life can kind of flip and change who we are. Our experiences can kind of change how we approach things.
yes, and I love that she goes through that process because it kind of helps you too. And in my case, I started thinking, I'm not gonna spoil anything, but I started thinking, oh, maybe I should do that too. It's okay if I do that too, right? Like I don't, and it's been years, but still, that you live with that. So these sort of books are the ones that you enjoy. First of all, obviously you enjoy them, but they have so much suspense, relationship dramas, self-discovery journeys. It's so enjoyable, and I didn't know you were about to release another book. That is amazing. Can you please tell me a little bit about it?
So first, No Hiding in Boise comes out in June. So this month I have a book. Yeah, in June. So this month I have a book. You got an early copy. This month I have a book coming out March 23rd. It's called All the Love, and I co-wrote it with a social worker and a psychologist. And it's called All the Love, Healing Your Heart and Finding Meaning After Pregnancy Loss. And so that one is a nonfiction book really geared toward helping women and partners going through pregnancy loss, all kinds of different topics, whether it's, the medical part of it and going through the physical changes that can happen with a loss, to, the grief phases and the different feelings that can come up, to how to connect with your partner after a loss, because can sometimes be a big disconnect. How to go forward with whether you want to try again or have another baby. So we touch on a variety of subjects. It's a big book, and I don't know, I'm really hoping it touches people that it needs to touch, but that was definitely a passion project and a completely different writing process than any of my
I bet, because now you're like co-writing it, you said, right?
Yeah, right.
So does that complicate things a little bit? Like, do you have to get together and be like, I got this, you got that, how are we gonna start this out?
Yeah, so I mean, because it kind of came from my experiences and my heart, I kind of organized the overall structure of the book. And then the way we set it up is where each section, they're very short sections. So like I would write a small passage based on my experience. And then Meredith, the social worker, or Dr. Hong Depp, she's the psychologist, would kind of comment on my writing, so that they could say like, oh, when you're feeling this, this is what it means. So it's kind of like the book, we kind of say it's like part memoir, part therapy session. So you kind of read my experience.
I love that.
Yeah, with like a little therapist kind of commenting. So it was easy to kind of split up the sections where I would write all the personal experience stuff, and then they would write sections to kind of comment on my experience. So you kind of think of it like, reading a memoir with like therapy thought bubbles alongside.
That I would love that. I mean, I definitely have to read it, because something else, I think like a lot of people underestimate the power of psychologists. I had to go to one after losing the baby, because I actually tried to play it cool. It didn't help. Like that's just not the way to go. And I just made a decision to go see a psychologist. And you start realizing so many things when they start to like insert thoughts or questions, and you're like, whoa, what is happening? My psychologist started connecting my loss through a loss with myself and through my relationship with my family members, and it's just like, whoa, where did this come from?
I know. I cannot say enough good things about therapy. I wish it was covered by national health plan or something and everybody could go, because I just think it's so important. And I mean, writing for me has always been therapy, but I've also had therapy with a psychologist too. So, and I kind of think they kind of help each other. So yeah, I think any therapeutic benefit people can get is great. Like
that's true. It's life-changing. And Kim, we are about to be done with our chat, but I have one last question for you. I hope to become an author at some point, and I know many of my followers on Instagram want so too. So I wanted to ask you, is there any advice you could give us on how to just write the book or become an author?
So I mean, I always tell people only become an author, a writer, if you feel like you have to write. Like if you just feel like it's in you and you have a story to tell and you can't not do it. Like it's almost like just like brushing your teeth it's just something that you have to do to feel right in the world. So because otherwise if it's anything, you know, of course there's times it feels like work, but it should feel so fulfilling that you're just called to do it. If you're not there, then don't force it, you know. I just think go with what your heart wants, write what you want to write. Don't worry about, is this going to sell, or how do I find an agent? Like just focus on your story that you want to write first and foremost, and then worry about the rest later. I just think it's easy to kind of get roadblocks in your head. Like, I don't know if anyone will like this, or I don't know if this is the right thing. And I think you can become paralyzed by the self-doubt. So I would say, yeah, feel confident in your voice and don't, you know, try to sound like somebody else. Just feel confident in your voice and write how you want to write, and then worry about the rest later. Yeah, and don't always assume that other authors or books know the answers to how to become a writer. There's definitely no recipe book for that. I think it really is following your passions and writing what really matters to you, because you're a unique person. So you have a unique voice and you have a unique story to tell. And I think having trust in that is the biggest thing, like knowing that what you have to say is worthy and valuable, and take your time with it. And yeah, just
thank you. No, I think that's amazing, because other people just focus on how to actually just write a book to sell it. But this is a different perspective, which is coming from the heart. I think that's what matters the most, because I think that's what makes you feel satisfied as well, as you mentioned. So thank you so much for your time, for the advice, for all the chat, Kim. I appreciate it so much. I would love to keep in touch so we can continue discussing all of the books. And I cannot wait to read the one that is coming this month. So thank you so much.
I can send you a copy.
Well, thank you. You're the best. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Say hi to your daughter. And I hope you have a great rest of the week.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful talking to you.
Same. Thank you. Have a great day. All right, everyone. That was our conversation with Kim. I am extremely excited this happened. I truly loved her book. And yes, it's coming out in June. So you should get a copy of it. And that's it. Please make sure you guys subscribe to my channel. Give it a like. If you have questions or if you want me to interview other authors, just let me know. I can go ahead and do so as well. And I also hope you have a great rest of the week. Bye.